Are you tired of having drums that's lacking? Well, I'm gonna show you how to get those drums smacking so they sound big, full, fat, open, and wide. First thing I would do starting off to get you a level mix. It's just an easy way to see where things are sitting in the mix. So let me mix this nice and easy level mix. Mix those kicks, take the snare down a little bit. Take the highs down a little bit. That's a little bit too loud. Now you listen to that, you're like, oh, those drums are not bad, but we gonna take them and we gonna get them smacking. We gonna get them nice and big and wide. So now that I got a nice level, I know how things sit. I take everything down and I work one at a time through the sounds, even though some mix engineers say you shouldn't work in isolation, but this is just how I've been working and I get TV placement. So something is going right. This is just how I do it. So let's start. So I got a kick. Now, usually for my kicks for TV, I take out a lot of the low end because the bass is going to feel it. Plus on the TV, it doesn't have to be knocking. We're not in a club, right? So, and for some reason, and when I mix in my room, how it's treated, I'm always taking down around the 200 hertz. It just gets rid of some of that boxiness on there. So I like that kick. Let's listen to the second kick on there. I layered this song with 3 kicks. So that kick doesn't sound all that great, but this is a short kick. So this is only have one purpose of being nice and punchy and tight. Let's listen to them together. Now let's add the last kick. There we go. This kick, I like this bounce kick. It adds some width, man. It's just nice. I'm just going to scope off the end of it. And I like how that sounds. So all the kicks together. So what I do now with my kicks, I bus them to a bus. So I already have my buses set and I have a kick bus. So all the kicks come in on this one channel. So all the kicks come in on this one channel and I have some parallel compression right next to it. So you see next to it, I have saturation on it to dirty it up. So you can just do the taste, and then I have a compressor compressing it to slap it. So this is the key. The parallel compression helps your drums really sound thick and fat. Let me take. Okay, I like a threshold of there. My ratio is a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm gonna put a nice, quick, and fast attack. Now let's blend that in with the kick. You hear how that sounds? Let's take it away. Then I have over here my overall kick level. I used to like to keep my kicks hitting around like 15 dB or so. Now that's done. Now let's move on to the snare. Okay, that's already pretty snappy, but what I do with my snares is I'm gonna pan it a little bit to the right. And why I like to pan my drums out, I try to think about acoustic drums and rock bands. When this recording engineer had a session and he taught me about picturing things as acoustic drums. So Even though the snare would be on the left in a typical drum set, I like to pan mine to the right. This is how you create the space. So that's not going to the right. I think I want to clean the snare up a little bit. It sounds like it's too many lows in there. That sounds good. The same theory with the kicks, with the parallel compression, I do with the snares as well. So I'm taking the snare, I'll put it to my snare bus, as you can see right here, and then it goes out to my snare parallel compression. So same theory. You can drive the drums. Compression on it, light compression, or heavy compression, sorry. Let's listen to it. Without it. You see how it just brings out the attack and elongates it, so it makes it feel like the snare has more weight and it's carrying on longer. And to give this snare a little bit more space, I already have my snare verb bus. That sounds good enough. Then I have a little accent ghost snare on it. I pan this snare too slightly out. Now you listen to that ghost snare. It's kind of feeling like it's muddying up you can see right here, it's a lot of low information in that snare. So let's take it out. Now you see how when the first snare hits, then that ghost snare hits, it makes you think about the information differently of how you paying attention to it. So if you were to take this as an alt track with just the drums and the bass, you would say, oh man, this track has some movement with just the drums. And that's why I pan my drums out. And you'll see what I do with my hi-hat. So if I put all my snares on the right, I put my hi-hats to the left. So we listen to the hi-hats. Let's pan this over to the left. Now let's hear it in a mix. Let's check out what it's doing in the EQ on the hi-hats. Okay, don't need to do nothing in that. You don't always have to reach for EQ. You see how there was no low information? So you don't always have to reach for EQ because it already sounds good. I panned it over to the left. Now there's space. Then I have a little open hat. Oh, my open hat is not playing on that. Let's see. I'll take this open hat over to the right. There we go. So and what I do is I always take my hats and put them to a bus. So it's going to a percussion bus. So as you can see down here, I have all my percussions, all my snares, and all my kicks. So later I'll show you how I control the volume and different things. It just makes it easier to control it. That's the way my workflow. And I have this small little reverse coin that goes into the snares. It's really small in the mix, so I'm not going to worry about EQ or anything. That's a little trick. If it's really small in the mix, you don't have to worry about doing much processing to it. It won't be heard. It's just that little ear candy. This will help speed up your mix for making music for TV. I have this little bleep that's giving a little motion to the track. So it's like almost like a tom hit. I'm gonna put it slightly to the left. Now that doesn't sound bad, so I'm just going to put that in with my percussion bus. I see that as a percussion. And now I have the crash on the start of the beat. Now, one little thing I like to do with my crash is to get them wide, is to do a sample delay. So I'll go to my presets and I have a crash delay preset. And I have a EQ on it, a sample delay, and some reverb. So what this sample delay does is, if you see on the left, it's delayed by 14.4 milliseconds. On the right, it's 0. That means when you hear it, it's going to sound like it's coming from the left first, then the right, thus giving you that width. So when you hear it on the first beat of the bar, you're like, oh, this is something different. This is adding something new to the track. So if I listen to it, let's listen to it in the track and listen to how it sounds wide, and then I'm gonna play it without it. Now without it. Did you hear the difference of how it sounded wide? Let's play it without. So it's gonna sound like it's straight up the middle. Now with it. So just that small move gives a perception that it's actually wider than it actually is. So that way, when you're listening to the music, it feels like something different. I'm going to bust this to my percussion bus because that's a percussion. And then now, since I have all my bases of my drum set, I'm going to go into all my percussions and I bust those to a reverb. Another tip I learned when this mix engineer showed me about mixing bands is they use a lot of room reverb just to add some nice ambience. So that's, in a sense, what I'm doing with just the percussion. So I have my percussions in the bus. Now, see, that's too much reverb. Let's take it down. Actually, that's too loud. Let's take down that. Now listen without the reverb. With the reverb. You see how it just sounds full? Let's start on the top of the beat again. It just sounds full and more presence and more brightness and wide and width with just adding a room reverb. You can also put the kick in there too. I don't usually put my kicks in reverb, but hey, you never know, it might sound good for what you're doing. So now I have all my kicks mixed. So now I go over to my buses. So now I can just look at the buses, and if I want to, mute all the snares real quick, this is where I can do it. But this is where the magic happens of really getting your drums to smack anymore. So what I do is I'll take all three, my kick, snare, and percussions, and I'm going to bust these out too and add the same parallel compression. Now on this track is just all the drums together. Oh, there we go, stereo bus. And we're going to do the same parallel compression that you see me do when I did with the kicks. But this time, I'm taking them all as a group so that way they can gel together. Plugin I'm going to use is Plugin Alliance X Stressor. Now, you can use different types of compressors on it. They all have different sounds, but I really like the X Stressor of how it attacks the drums. So I'm going to take the gain, the 2-to-1 ratio, lower the ratio, up the input. Now you can already hear the drum sounding a little bit dirty. I didn't like that loop. Oops. Let's change the attack. Now you see how depending on fast and slow, how it sounds. It's hitting those transients real hard. Let's adjust the release. Now let's listen with and without. Now I'm gonna add some saturation on it to dirty it up even more. Add a little bit of warmth. Then what I would do is blend these into the original drums. You see how it just adds the energy? Now, since we got the parallel compression on all the drums, the last final stage what I would do is my master drum bus. I know I got a lot of buses. There's probably easier ways to do it. This is just my workflow and it's work. So these are all the drums combined. So let's take this out and I'm gonna bus it over to bus 30. There we go. So now everything is coming into this one and we're going to glue it together with a bus compressor. So always I put a saturation just right on the top, just a subtle amount. It's not a lot. And I have this Native Instruments solid bus compression. Now this is going to glue everything together with the drums. Let's do my preset first. So this is just a starting point. Let's listen to the drums. Now you can see it's really hitting. It's really hitting that threshold. Let's listen without it. So what it's doing is taking the level of each different instrument and bringing them up to the same and gluing them together. So when you hear glue, that's what it means. It's making it feel like one cohesive project or cohesive sound. So everything together, the drums, the parallel compression of the drums are being pumped up and raised to a level so they all sound even, glued together. And you can play with the different threshold settings. You can get more extreme or less extreme. But you see how it's starting to sound. So now it actually sounds too compressed, right? The drums are not breathing, but let me take it, lower the threshold. Now you see how when each element comes out, it just pops in and is right in your face versus when I had a higher threshold, it just everything just sound compressed and squashed. So that's how you get your drums hitting hard and smacking wide. Now I hope you can take these tips and apply them to your drums to get them nice and fat and sounding beefy and cutting through a mix. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this and want to see more mixing tips. And if you're stuck in the 4-bar loop because you're looking at the same drums, make sure you check out this video to get you out of the loop.